Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth episode of Use Your Brain. Use Your Brain was created with the purpose to make you think outside of the box. No comments will be deleted, no reposts will be flagged as copyright, and no edits will be infringements. So, today I brought you to a new location here in Venice. This new location, you're going to see a lot of vaporettos passing by, which are the water buses. You're also going to see a lot of people. I'm starting to get used to recording in front of people. You do feel the pressure, I have to say, but you have to overcome it sometimes, right? So that's what I'm doing today, overcoming the pressure of having so much people around me while I am recording a video. So, as always, smoking some Italico Bianco Stellato, and today I'm drinking Montenegro, which you can Google it up if you don't know what Montenegro is. Kind of sweet, but it really kicks in really fast, right? And I do kind of need it for today's subject, which is a little bit delicate, I have to say. And by the title, if you haven't read it already, today we're going to be talking about should men be the one working and women stay at home, or should it be different? Like always, you can start using your brain. This is what not mean an insult. I want you to start taking your own conclusions, right? Just giving you some time to analyze by yourself this idea. Some of you might already be triggered. Some of you might want to hear what I have to say. Others are completely blank. They just want to get into. They're just waiting to have an opinion given by others to them. That's what I want to avoid. I want to avoid you being in that blank state. I want you to have your own ideas right now, so that when we get to the end of this video, you can confront your ideas to mine and to other people below in the comments, right? So we'll start this by explaining to you part of my life. When I was a kid, my father and my mother got divorced when I was 6 years old. Then I went to live with my mother for a few years, then back to my father eventually. And I spent most of my childhood and the time I was a teenager, I spent it a lot traveling back and forth, like going from my mother's house, which was actually my aunt's house, and then going back to my father's house, right? When I was with my mother, we were in a house of eight. We had a lot of problems, including food, water, electricity bills, etc., etc. But that's not the story for today. The fact is that there were some times where my mother was able to get her own apartment, right? Which I don't know if I should say her own apartment because it was a really, really small place. It was only one room. It was not an entire apartment. It was one room, and in that room we had everything, right? We had a kitchen, we had a bathroom, we had the place to sleep. The only thing that was apart in a different, you can say, in a different space within that room was the bathroom. Of course, we had the clothes that divides for privacy purposes, the living room to the bathroom, and then the all the rest of the things were in the living room. And we have the living room, we had the bed, we had the kitchen, we had everything we needed there, the TV, everything, even a small table to eat and drink as a family, which we never did. Why? I will get to that in a moment. The reason we actually never ate together in the table was because my mother was always outside working, because she was the one having me and my sister, which is 4 years older than me. She was the one that was, let's say, taking care of everything financially, right? Because my father and her were divorced, so my father had no responsibility at all. My father was sending money, in fact, to me, every month, and my mother was using it to also include it in the things that she needed at home. But it wasn't enough. Three people, one home. Only she was working. I was spending most of my time with my sister. We had nobody to take care of us when we were little, so it was hard. It was rough, right? And I do remember some of the parts that I did like or did enjoy about my childhood when where was when my mother was at home. When she was at home, I was really happy, right? Because when I was with my father used to work all day. So when I was with my mother, I expected it to be different. So in the times where she didn't have a job and we were living in that house of eight, and she was at home every single day, I had the time to spend a lot of time with her, right? And I could learn so many things from her. And as a kid, you also need love. And my mother was a really feminine lady, I would say, because she expressed love in a really open way. Many hug, many hugs, many kisses was a beautiful part of my childhood. But as soon as she started to become more independent and she wanted to have her own space and everything, then she started working. But she wasn't working one shift; she was working two shifts, or sometimes don't even coming home back home in 2 days straight in a row because she was only working to be able to pay for all the and commodities we had, right? Which were this little space, but she felt really proud about this little space because she was paying it by her own. And of course, she was really proud of being the one that was making everything. But that was at the cost of not spending time with me and my sister at all. So me and my sister, we had to figure out the right way to live. We had to figure out which was the right decision to make every day. We went to school by ourselves. At the time, we did not have a bus because in, in Panama, which is where I'm from, you have school buses that come to your house and take you to school, private school buses. We did not have this luxury to have the private school buses, at least not in the beginning. So we had to go by ourselves, right? So we became really independent really early on, but we indeed felt lost. And one of the things that came at the expense of my mother never being home is that in the school that we were that year, my sister and I were coming from other schools that were not public schools, were private schools, but the environment was really different. So the environment was more peaceful, right? The kids were more educated. In this new school, we were, you will say, a ghetto school. We were in the school of the hood, and we suffered from a lot of bullying. I was bullied, she was bullied, and it was a really hard year for both of us because we had no way to manage this. Sometimes we tried to tell the professors and everything, but it was like if it was part of the school environment, right? So nobody cared about it. And one of the solutions that we found was to stop going to school. So there was a period of the year where we didn't went to school for like 2 or 3 weeks straight until they found out and they called my mother and they called our fathers and they notified everything, right? But it was a really, let's say, I don't want to say weird. I don't know. Weird is not the right word here. It was a really confusing year because me and my sister we didn't know how to deal with any of the problems that we had, and my mother had no times to deal. We had no time to deal with these problems, right? So we got to the point that we had to talk to our mother and say that we could no longer be in this position where she was never at home and we had to do everything by ourselves. And we went back to my aunt house, because to my grandmother house, excuse me, not my aunt house, to my grandmother house, and we were like I said, we were before in eight. Now without my mother because my mother was still staying in her new room. We were seven, right? And at the end, fast forward, My mother loses all interest in having that room because she saw how problematic it was to have two kids and also work so many hours. So she came eventually came back to my grandmother's house also, and we were all together there at the end. But it was an awful experience. My mother then got into the let's say she got used to working, so she kept working as hard as she was working before to help also in my grandmother's house. So she was never present. She was working most of the time. I had the luxury that not many people had. I could spend most time with my aunts because my grandmother used to work also. So my uncle was in school and my other aunts were always at home, so I had the time to spend a lot of time with them. They teach me a lot of things about life. They teach me a lot of things growing up about how I should behave, about the things that I should look forward in the future. And they were really also religious, so they also teach me a lot of when it comes to religion. I was a Christian, then I became evangelic. Then by myself, I studied Buddhism. Then I came to Italy. I studied like 8 months with I don't know how you say it in English, but in Spanish is Testimonio de Jehová, which I will later translate and I will put it in the subtitles. So, as I was thinking about this subject, thank you. He's giving me compliments, by the way. Uh, as I was thinking about this subject, I honestly would have loved my mother to be more in the house with me. And so, one of you might say, why not your father? Well, at least for me, in my case, in the beginning, it was always my father the one working. It was my mother that started to work after they got divorced. But at the beginning, it was my father having the grip on everything, like right, taking care of everything financially. It was my father to do that in the beginning. So I was used to that. So for me, I was used to also having my mother by my side every day, and not having my mother every day was kind of a hit for me growing up. I still feel the backlash of not having my mother, not having your mother around, not having that paternal love can make you really um, thirsty is not the right word. I sometimes confuse myself when trying to search for words in English, but let's metaphorically use thirsty as our description for this. Growing up, I became really thirsty for love, for real love, right? It didn't feel the same when it came from one of my aunts, like when it came from my mother. It didn't feel the same hugging my aunt like it felt hugging my mother, right? My father was never that physically when it comes to exchanging love. So I was also not used to having hugs from my dad, but I was really used to having my mother. Then my mother went away, so I was just like by myself. So it made me really thirsty for love. And in my journey of searching for this love, or trying to fill this gap that I had inside, and this void that I had inside, I made so many mistakes. I attached to so many girls that I should have not attached to just because it was thirsty of love, right? So this got me into thinking: should women really work, or should we just go back to the traditional way of the men working and the woman being the one at home? Well, it is complicated. Why is it complicated? Because just starting by saying should women work, I don't think is a good way to start this argument, because I think that anybody that wants to work should be able to work and should be able to go outside and earn money by him or herself. Of course, there are exceptions to everything in life, but at least for this, I don't think there is much difference when it comes to having a woman work or a father work. I think the main problem or the main issue we're looking at here is the fact of the children that are growing up without their father and without their mother. I think that that is the main issue that we're having right now, right? Because growing up without the love of your father and without the love of your mother will, in fact, have negative effects on your development. Either you become too attached to the person that is taking care of you, that is not your mother or your father, and you lose respect to your real parents, or you are just not in the economical position to give your child someone that can take care of him or her, and then they are alone. I also had many friends that their fathers had to work a lot, both of them, and the only distraction they had was playing in the computer or playing PlayStation, right? So they were let's say 13, 14 years old, or they could get home safe, and they will spend the entire day just online. And you never know what your children will see online, right? So it's actually pretty dangerous, I will say, and you cannot control everything they will see online and what information they will take, and if they will start to confront your way of teaching because of something they are seeing online. Because of course, if you're not with them the entire day, they have no reason to listen to you. They can just say you don't care about me, or maybe other there are things that the kids say. I used to say that too. I used to hate my father. I used to hate my mother. I went through that. I used to hate them because they never spent time with me. Now that I'm grown up, I can understand the reasons. I can understand why it happened, and I can onboard my pain right in the right way, because now I have the amount of knowledge necessary to be able to onboard my pain. But before it was not like this. Before I went to so many personal problems because of not having my parents around when I was little. So when it comes to like I say, my dad, I really don't think that having my dad more time will have changed so much in me, because what my father did for me in any case was to give me an example. And the example he gave to me was that it didn't matter what problems he faced or what problem I was facing, that he will always search for an answer, and he will do it by himself, and that he will work as much as possible for that, right? So let's say in my family core, at least at the beginning, it was my father giving me the examples and my mother giving me the love. In today's society, we can have it the other way around. We can have your father giving you the love and your mother giving you the example, which I don't have any problem with it. I don't think there's anything wrong about it. The only thing I think that is wrong is when both parents are focused on only working and are spending little time with their kids. And in higher, let's say in a higher economical, how can I say this? When you have more finances available for you, it is less of a problem because you can have somebody just take care of your child, and you can make sure that the person that is taking care of your child is qualified to do so. But for people in the middle to low class, it is harder. You have two parents working, then who's going to teach your kid? Your kid is out there in the open to watch little Nas twerk on the devil, and what is your kid going to think about it, right? It's hard to come to a conclusion because today's society also requires both of the parents to work. If both of your parents don't work, then having kids, having a house, bills to pay, everything is really, really hard. So it is like if in today's society it is a requirement to have both of your parents to work. Or if one of them works, he has to make a bunch of money, because then you might get sick, then you might have emergencies, and you need to cover those also, right? Those also. So the more we get into the subject, the more we will realize that maybe in today's society there's little to no way to solve this issue, because economy itself requires right now two people to be working at home. If their income, if the let's say their low wage or medium wage, they will most probably need to be working in two to keep an entire home going, or decide to not have any child at all. And if you don't have any child to take care of, then why not work? Why not go outside as a woman or as a man? It doesn't matter. Why not work as two instead of one? Right? Would make no sense. So am I against women working? No, I think it is stupid. If she wants to work, she can work. Do I think, am I against men not working? Not uh, a part of, let's say, I'm 60% against men not working, and 40% of me doesn't say it is okay, but says in some circumstances it is, let's say, we're looking for the right word because this is a delicate part to talk about. So 40%, 60% of me says it is not okay, and the other 40% thinks that it really depends. It depends on why is the purpose that the man is not working, because I think that since the beginning of times, one of the things that has allowed us to survive, and I will always say, because people don't give enough value to the fact that so many things have allowed us to survive and to come to this day. We just ignore them and we let them go. But that's not the way it should be. We should really take these things into considerations, because if an emergency happens, we will all go back to our natural roles. And I think that man has always been hardworking. Working is has always been part of a man. A man that did not work was dead. He needed to move. He needed to hunt. He needed to take care of himself and his family, right? So it's really important for men to work. So 60% of me is against it. A man should always have objectives and have something to look towards. And the other 40% say it depends, because maybe you have rich parents and you're going to the university because you're going to study something, and your parents aren't pay for it, and you're studying right now. Okay, it's fine. Like, okay, you can at least go to the gym, right? But it does on specific situations. And for specific situations, you also have to analyze it in a specific way, right? Am I against women working? So that there I'm in a 50-50. 50 will be yes, because um, if depends on the fact, if there's something, one of the parents, someone, one of the parents at home taking care of the child, then I think no, there's there's no problem with it. But the other part that say yes, if is there's nobody at home, right? Because like I said before, since the beginning of time, men were the one having to work twice or three times as hard. So we are used to it. And women were the ones taking care and nurturing the child. So you are used to it in in a biological way, I would say, instead of in a traditional way. So because of this fact, I do think that if we take our weakness and strengths, that a man going to work and a woman staying at home is, in most of the cases, it goes in direct line with the natural way of being of each person. In today's society, of course, not. We have many women that are different, and if you are different, then I have no issue. The only way I have an issue if you are working and the man is working also, and there's nobody at home to give time to your child. Then I think there is something that should be fixed, because you don't know where your child is learning from, or what he is or she is learning. And then if your husband, let's say, is at home taking care of your child, then okay, it's fine. You can go work. That's the way you want to do it, it's fine. But I think that naturally, men are driven to work, women are more driven to nurturing and giving love. That's just the way I think. You can tell me if you don't think the same way, it's fine. We can have different opinions. And by no means saying that the woman is weaker, that men are stronger. This has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with a completely different topic, and I hope that you understand what I'm saying. But to start to arrive not to a conclusion, but to a closing statement, children today are growing. There's no, we will never know what the future of this society will be, because there's no more traditions, because traditions are were mostly taught by family, be inside the families, and by society to the families, and then the families will keep um giving. passing this information from generation to generation. So the less we have families that are united and that actually take the time to be together and to teach the younger ones, the more all the responsibility goes to society. And in society, we never know what we will find. We never know how things will go, and things can come out really, really bad in the future. And we're already starting to see it. We're already starting to see kids having not what I will say. I don't want to say not normal behavior because normality is not the thing here. But I want to say having behavior that I think is unacceptable to kids. We have kids that have committed rape, kids that have committed murder, kids that have that with the cyberbullying in today's society is also over the roofs. We have kids that don't respect their parents, kids that don't respect adult people in society. So we're losing our boundaries, and the more we lose our boundaries, the more chaos there will be in society. And with this, I will close today's video. Do you think, honestly, that men should go to work and women stay at home, or do you think that it should be different?